My sister Anna called me on a cold October night. Her voice was calm, almost too calm, like ice that refused to crack. She told me her 7-year marriage had just ended right there at the dinner table on their wedding anniversary. I always had a bad feeling about Derek, her husband, but I never imagined things would shatter this way. What he did that night cost him everything in just 2 weeks. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect. If you have ever witnessed someone you love being humiliated by the person who was supposed to protect them, you will understand what I'm about to share. My name is Kevin, and Anna is my younger sister by 3 years. Our parents divorced when we were just kids. I was 9 and Anna had just turned 6. Our father walked out one morning and never came back. No explanation, no goodbye. Just an empty chair at the breakfast table, and a mother who had to figure out how to raise 2 children on her own. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and clothed. She cleaned office buildings during the day and waitressed at a diner 3 nights a week. Anna and I learned early that nothing in life comes free. We did our homework at the kitchen table while Mom ironed her uniform for the next shift. We packed our own lunches and walked ourselves to school. Anna was always the driven one. She graduated top of her class in high school, earned a scholarship to study accounting and finance at a state university, and landed a job at a respected investment firm right after graduation. By 25, she was already making more money than our mother ever had. I was proud of her. Everyone who knew her was proud of her. But Anna had one weakness that I recognized even when she did not. She constantly felt the need to prove that she was worthy of love. I think it came from watching our father leave. She never said it out loud, but I could see it in the way she bent over backward for people, the way she accepted less than she deserved just to avoid being abandoned again. 8 years ago, Anna met Derek at a charity fundraiser hosted by her company. He was the son of a well-off family from the suburbs, working as a sales manager at his father's auto dealership. According to Anna, he was charming, attentive, and made her feel like the only woman in the room. The first time I met Derek was at a family dinner Mom hosted at her small apartment. He arrived with flowers and a bottle of wine, shook my hand firmly, and complimented Mom on her pot roast. He said all the right things, but I noticed something that night that I never forgot. When Derek looked around our apartment at the worn carpet, the second-hand furniture, the water stain on the ceiling there was a flicker in his eyes. It lasted only a second, but I caught it. It was a look of quiet disdain, as if he had just realized he was slumming. I kept my mouth shut. Anna was glowing that night, happier than I had seen her in years. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being overprotective. But that look stayed with me. They dated for a year before Derek proposed. Anna said yes before he even finished the question. The wedding was held at a country club that Derek's parents belonged to. It was fancier than anything our family had ever experienced. Mom wore a dress she bought on clearance and sat in the front row with tears streaming down her face. That was when I first encountered Linda, Derek's mother. She was a tall woman with perfectly styled silver hair and the kind of posture that suggested she had never slouched a day in her life. She smiled at us, but the smile never reached her eyes. During the reception, I stepped outside to get some air and overheard Linda talking to one of her relatives near the garden. She did not know I was there. "My son could have done so much better," Linda said, her voice dripping with disapproval. "But he insisted on this girl. I do not know what he sees in her." I stood frozen behind a pillar, my fists clenched. Part of me wanted to march over and tell her exactly what I thought. But I looked through the window and saw Anna dancing with Derek, her white dress swirling, her face radiant with joy. I could not bring myself to ruin that moment, so I swallowed my anger and walked back inside. After the wedding, Anna moved into a house that Derek purchased. He always told everyone his parents had given them the down payment as a wedding gift, but I later learned that Anna had contributed most of her savings as well. She just never corrected him when he took all the credit. Linda began visiting frequently. At first, it seemed like normal mother-in-law behavior. She would stop by to see how they were settling in, bring casseroles, offer decorating advice. But her visits had an edge to them. She would run her finger along the mantel, checking for dust. She would open the refrigerator and comment on how Anna organized the shelves. She would taste Anna's cooking and pause just long enough before saying, "It is fine, I suppose." Derek never defended Anna. Whenever she brought up his mother's behavior, he would wave it off. "Mom just wants what is best for us," he would say. "She means well. You are being too sensitive." I started noticing changes in my sister. She called me less often. When we did talk, she sounded tired, distracted. She made excuses for why she could not meet for lunch or come to Mom's for Sunday dinner. She was always busy with something at home. One Saturday, I drove over to surprise her. When Anna opened the door, I barely recognized her. She had lost weight. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her hair, which she always kept neat, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. But she smiled and told me everything was fine. She said she had just been working hard, that was all. I wanted to believe her. But the house was spotless, almost obsessively so. And when Derek came downstairs, he barely acknowledged me before asking Anna what was for lunch, as if she were the help rather than his wife. The 3rd year of Anna's marriage brought what should have been wonderful news. She was pregnant. I remember the excitement in her voice when she called to tell me. Mom cried happy tears. We all thought this baby would bring the family closer together. But at 4 months, Anna lost the baby. I rushed to the hospital as soon as she called. When I got there, she was lying in a bed in a cold, sterile room staring at the ceiling. Her face was blank, emptied of all expression. Derek was not beside her. I found him in the hallway, pacing back and forth, talking loudly into his phone about some deal at the dealership. I walked into Anna's room and sat down next to her. I did not know what to say, so I just held her hand. Linda arrived about an hour later. She swept into the room with her coat still on, looked at Anna lying in that hospital bed, and the first words out of her mouth were, "I suppose you were not taking care of yourself properly." These things happen when women do not know how to manage their health. I felt my blood turn to ice. I opened my mouth to say something, but Anna squeezed my hand hard. She shook her head slightly, her eyes pleading with me to stay quiet. It was as if she had already accepted this treatment, as if she expected nothing better. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. In the years that followed, Derek's control over Anna tightened like a slowly closing fist. He took over their finances completely. Anna's paychecks went into a joint account that only he had full access to. He gave her an allowance for groceries and household expenses, and she had to account for every dollar. She stopped seeing her friends. Every time someone invited her out, she had an excuse ready. She was too busy. She was not feeling well. She had things to do around the house. Eventually, people stopped asking. Meanwhile, Derek traded in his car for a new model every 2 years. He bought expensive watches and golf club memberships. He went on business trips that always seemed to include resort stays and fancy dinners. Anna wore the same clothes she had owned for years. Linda instituted weekly family dinners at her house. Anna was expected to arrive early to help prepare the food and stay late to clean up. The other family members would sit in the living room, drinks in hand, while Anna worked in the kitchen. And when the meal was served, Linda would always find something to criticize. The roast was too dry. The vegetables were overcooked. The table setting was wrong. Derek's Uncle Frank was a regular at these dinners. He was Linda's younger brother, a loud man who drank too much and thought he was funnier than he actually was. He had a habit of making comments about Anna that made my skin crawl. He would look her up and down and make remarks about her figure. He would joke that Derek should keep her on a tighter leash. Derek would just laugh along as if his uncle's vulgarity was perfectly acceptable. By the 6th year, I could not stay silent anymore. I invited Anna to lunch at a quiet restaurant far from her neighborhood, somewhere we would not run into anyone she knew. I told her everything I had observed. The way Derek treated her, the way his family looked down on her. the way she had slowly disappeared into the role of servant in her own home. I asked her why she was putting up with it. Anna listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that broke my heart. "I know, Kevin. I know all of it. But I have invested 7 years in this marriage. I do not want to fail. I do not want to end up like Mom and Dad." I understood then. Anna was not staying because she loved Derek. She was staying because she was terrified of repeating our parents' history. She thought divorce meant failure, and she would rather suffer in silence than admit defeat. I took her hand across the table. I told her I would support whatever decision she made, but I also told her that staying in a bad marriage was not success. It was just a different kind of failure. She nodded, her eyes wet. "I will try to make things better," she said. "I will try one more time." A few months later, Anna called me with something I had not heard in her voice for years. Excitement. Real, genuine excitement. Their 7th wedding anniversary was coming up, she explained. She had decided to cook Derek's favorite meal, a complicated beef bourguignon that required hours of preparation. She had ordered special ingredients from an import store. She was going to set the table with candles and fresh flowers. She wanted to remind him of the woman he had fallen in love with. I listened to her plan and my heart felt heavy. She was putting all her hopes into a single dinner, betting everything on the chance that a perfect meal would somehow fix years of damage. But I could not crush her optimism. So I just said, "I hope it goes well, Anna. I really do." On the day of their anniversary, Anna woke up before dawn. She spent 8 hours in the kitchen preparing every element of the meal from scratch. She braised the beef low and slow until it fell apart at the touch of a fork. She caramelized onions until they were sweet and golden. She made her own stock from bones she had been saving for weeks. By late afternoon, the house smelled incredible. Anna had set the dining room table with their wedding china, the set they had received as a gift and never used. She placed candles in silver holders and arranged a bouquet of roses in the center. She put on a dress she had bought secretly, something elegant that made her feel beautiful. When Derek came home from work, he was not alone. He walked through the door with Linda and his Uncle Frank trailing behind him. Anna had not been told they were coming. Derek did not apologize or explain. He just said his mother wanted to celebrate with them, and Frank happened to be visiting. Anna stood in the hallway, her careful plans crumbling, but she forced herself to smile. She told herself it was fine. She could add 2 more place settings. She could make this work. They sat down to dinner. Anna brought out the beef bourguignon in her best serving dish, the one her grandmother had left her. She set it in the center of the table, her hands trembling slightly with anticipation. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Derek picked up his fork and knife. He cut a small piece of meat and put it in his mouth. Anna watched him chew, her heart pounding. Then Derek stopped. His face twisted. He grabbed his napkin and spit the food into it, making a show of his disgust. "No wonder my mother begged me not to marry you," he said, his voice loud and cutting. "You are useless in every way." The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Linda sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable, but there was a gleam in her eyes that looked almost satisfied. And then Frank, who had been drinking steadily since he arrived, let out a loud, braying laugh from across the table. "Should have married someone who could at least fake being a real woman," he slurred, raising his glass as if making a toast. Anna stood at the head of the table, the serving spoon still in her hand. 8 hours of work, 7 years of marriage, a lifetime of trying to be good enough. It all came crashing down in that moment. But something else happened too. Something inside Anna shifted. Later, when she told me about it, she said it felt like a door closing. Not with a slam, but with a quiet final click. She set the spoon down gently. She looked directly at Derek, her eyes steady and cold. "You just buried this marriage with your own mouth," she said. "Remember that." Derek's smirk faltered. He was not used to this, Anna. The Anna he knew would have apologized, would have tried harder, would have absorbed the insult and kept going. Linda spoke up, her voice sharp. "How dare you speak to your husband that way?" Anna did not even look at her. She kept her gaze fixed on Derek. "I have heard enough for 7 years," she said. "Tonight is the last time." She turned and walked out of the dining room. Derek jumped up and followed her, expecting to find her crying in their bedroom the way she always did after one of these episodes. Instead, he found her pulling a suitcase from the closet. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Anna did not answer. She began placing clothes in the suitcase with calm, methodical movements. Derek watched her for a moment, then scoffed. "Should have married someone who knows her place," he said. Still Anna said nothing. She continued packing. "Where do you think you are going in the middle of the night?" Derek asked, his voice rising. "To my brother's house," Anna said, zipping the suitcase closed. "My lawyer will be in touch." Derek laughed, but it sounded uncertain. "Lawyer, with what money you do not have 2 dimes to rub together without me." Anna paused at the bedroom door. She turned to look at him one last time. "You never once asked me what I did with my yearly bonus," she said. "Not once in 7 years." She walked out, leaving Derek standing alone in their bedroom, his face pale. Anna called me at 11 that night. I drove to meet her at a gas station halfway between our homes. When she got into my car, I expected tears. I expected her to be shattered. Instead, she was smiling. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. She looked lighter than she had in years. On the drive back to my apartment, she told me everything. Not just about the dinner, but about what she had been doing for the past 6 years. After the miscarriage, after Linda's cruel words in that hospital room, something in Anna had started to wake up. She began setting aside money in a secret account. Every bonus, every bit of overtime pay, every small amount she could skim from the grocery budget without Derek noticing. It was not much at first, but it added up over the years. 6 months ago, she told me she had consulted with a divorce lawyer. The trigger was an incident at one of Linda's dinners. Frank had cornered her in the kitchen and put his hands on her. When Anna told Derek about it afterward, he laughed and said his uncle was just being friendly. That was when Anna knew she had to leave. She just needed to do it on her own terms. The lawyer had helped her gather documentation of Derek's financial deceptions. He had been making investments with their shared money investments that went badly and hiding the losses from Anna. The house which Derek claimed his parents had paid for was actually purchased largely with funds from their joint account after the wedding. Anna had a legal claim to half its value. She had been preparing for months, waiting for the right moment. And Derek, with his cruelty at that anniversary dinner, had given her exactly the exit she needed. 2 weeks after Anna left, the divorce papers arrived at Derek's door. He called her dozens of times a day. At first, the calls were angry. He accused her of being ungrateful, of throwing away their marriage over nothing, of embarrassing him in front of his family. Anna did not answer. Then the tone changed. He started begging. He said he was sorry. He said he would go to counseling. He said he would tell his mother to back off. He promised things would be different. Anna still did not answer. I was the one who picked up when he called me. "Please," Derek said, his voice cracking. "Tell her I will do anything. I will do whatever she wants. Just tell her to come back." I told him it was too late. Some things once broken cannot be repaired. Linda called too, for the first time speaking to Anna without condescension in her voice. "Can you not forgive him?" Linda asked. He spoke out of anger. He did not mean it. Anna's response was calm and measured. "You told everyone I was not good enough for your son from the day we met. Now I am doing exactly what you wanted. I am leaving." Linda had no reply. She hung up without another word. As for Frank, Anna sent Derek a recording she had made months earlier, capturing his uncle's inappropriate comments and behavior. She made it clear that if Frank ever came near her again, the recording would find its way to his employer and his wife. Frank stayed far away. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. The judge reviewed Derek's hidden investments and his misuse of marital funds. Anna received a fair settlement, including half the equity in the house. Derek had to sell his sports car to cover the debts from his failed investments. He moved back in with his mother. Anna used her portion of the settlement as a down payment on a small apartment close to her office. It was nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom unit with big windows that let in the morning light. But it was hers. A few months after the divorce, she was promoted to financial manager at her firm. It was a position she had been offered twice before, but turned down because Derek said a wife should prioritize her home over her career. This time she said yes. The healing did not happen overnight. There were nights when Anna could not sleep when she lay awake wondering if she had made the right choice. There were moments of doubt, of loneliness, of grief for the future she had imagined, but would never have. I visited her often during those months. We would cook dinner together in her tiny kitchen the way we used to when we were kids, helping Mom after her long shifts. We would sit on her second-hand couch and watch old movies, not talking much, just being together. Anna started seeing a therapist who specialized in helping people recover from controlling relationships. She learned to recognize the patterns she had fallen into, the ways she had diminished herself to keep the peace, the beliefs about her own worthlessness that had taken root so deep she did not even know they were there. 6 months after the divorce, I saw my sister laugh, really laugh for the first time in years. We were at a coffee shop, and she was telling me about a ridiculous mistake a new hire at her office had made. Her whole face lit up, and for a moment she looked exactly like the Anna I remembered from before Derek, the bright, confident girl who believed she could take on the world. She told me once that she did not hate Derek. Hating him would mean he still had power over her. Instead, she felt something closer to pity. He was a small man who needed to make others smaller to feel big. That was his burden to carry, not hers. A year after the divorce, Anna started dating again. She met someone through a mutual friend, a man who worked at a different investment firm across town. His name was Thomas, and from the first time I met him, I could tell he was different. He listened when Anna spoke. He asked about her opinions and valued her thoughts. He treated her like an equal, a partner, not a possession. Anna did not rush into anything. She had learned to take her time, to trust her own judgment, to know her worth without needing someone else to confirm it. But when she talked about Thomas, there was a lightness in her voice that I had never heard before, not even in the early days with Derek. The last time we talked about everything that happened, Anna said something that stayed with me. I spent 7 years trying to prove I deserved to be loved, she said. I cooked and cleaned and bent myself into shapes I did not recognize, all because I thought if I just tried hard enough, he would finally see my value. But the truth is, I was trying to earn something that should have been given freely, and the only person who could see my worth was me. She paused, looking out the window at the city below. Sometimes, she said, the worst thing someone can do to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Derek humiliated me that night. He broke something that could not be fixed. But in breaking it, he set me free. I think about that night, often the anniversary dinner that ended a marriage. I think about my sister standing at that table, 8 hours of love and effort in front of her, being told she was worthless by the man who had promised to cherish her. And I think about what she did next. She did not scream. She did not cry. She looked him in the eye and told him the truth. He had buried their marriage with his own mouth, and she walked away with her dignity intact. If you are watching this and you are in a relationship where you constantly have to prove your worth, where your efforts are never enough, where you shrink yourself to avoid someone else's anger, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve someone who sees your value without you having to beg for it. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had a moment when someone showed you exactly who they were and you finally believed them? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to make a change. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about strength, healing, and finding your way back to yourself. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Sometimes the right words at the right time can change everything. Thank you for being here today. I wish you all the courage to know your worth and the strength to walk away from anyone who cannot see it.